Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to Chassidus in the morning. 15 minutes to change our lives. Start off by giving tzedakah. Could do tzedakah. Shmekrev is like Ula. Giving tzedakah. Mitzvah Hashem. Mashiach. And we're gonna today be learning the schus of Nitzan, Bat Ronit. The Mitzvah Hashem should be all healthy and safe. Should come back, and we should have, and also for all the Yidden and all the soldiers in Eretz Yisroel and around the world, should be healthy and safe. We should have Mashiach. So we're continuing on discussing essentially what we've said yesterday as sort of the chiddush, the novelty of what we've been saying till now, is that even though in Rosh Hashanah Kippur we have this whole process of getting the chesed for the whole year and coming through, specifically we said it's through the Gevurah. We talked about what that means. But ultimately, what we explained yesterday is that it's all spiritual terms. It's so great, and it's still in the level of spirituality. And ultimately, we have to discuss how does it come down from the level of Atzilus, which we explained yesterday, is like from the word Etzel, next to. Atzilus is like fire, that it doesn't connect with the lower three worlds, and ultimately we are the lowest world. And so they're two separate things still. So what's the key component? How does this all work? It's through the key of Malchus. And this is what Malchus is. And we're going to explain this today. Also, to have a better understanding a little bit of these four worlds, when we, as the Rebbe says in the Sikha, it says, Atzilus is not a place. Like all these worlds are not like a place. Like you go to this world, it's like there's Saturn and there's Jupiter and there's Pluto. So there's Atzilus, it's another world. It's not like that. It's it's spirituality, and it's a level of divinity, really. So when a person, which really we sort of can't do this, but like tzaddikim, big tzaddikim, they live in the level of Atzilus. It means it's all oneness with God. They didn't see the separation. It's like the famous story of the Alter Rebbe before he passed away. He said, I don't see the beam, I see the Dvar Vay. There's a beam, support beam in the house. And he said, I don't see the beam, I see the words of Hashem creating. When you're seeing that, you're in Atzilus. And in a simple terminology, when we're totally connected to God, the only thing we see is godliness. And when you have and I've seen this before. Let's say when the CT Shabbaton happens, I remember last year, comes around and you see like rabbis, like our Paltiel, I saw this. He said good Shabbos to these teens, and the love that he had for these teens, you could just like you could see it coming out. So when he says good Shabbos, it seemed to me, at least, that like he's seeing the neshama. When you look at a person, the only thing he sees is the pure neshama. This is sort of like Atzilus. Remember, Atzilus is a world that it's the only difference between Atzilus and God is that it's a world. It's a world that's all godliness. So when we live a lifestyle that's all godliness, then we're living an Atzilus lifestyle. Bria is already creation. So when we start to see ourselves as a creation, separate from God, but totally consumed, wanting to be connected with God, so then that's where we're living in the world of Bria. And when we live, and when we have that, there's us and there's our emotions and our feelings as separate from God, but we do the right thing. That's Yitzira. And Asiya is when we're in the world where there's a whole world. I don't see godliness. Godliness doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Godliness is very foreign. There's me, my world, my reality, and then there's some time that I give for godliness. That's Asiya, essentially. And that's essentially these different worlds. And you could go on for days on end, and there's a lot to be said about it, but that's just something in short to think about. And yeah. But like we're saying, to get from Atzilus to be brought down the good that we're looking for between the Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, to come down to the physical world, into Asiya, into our world, meaning in the physicality, even in our physical lives, that we said at this point what we're learning, it's two separate. So let's see, how does it come down to make it actually into our physical reality? Bria, the world after Atzilus starts having a feeling of yesh, of an existence. It's not just God. There's God and I. There's already an I. Now this I is totally consumed with God, but there's not just God. In Atzilus, it's just God. Now, even though in Atzilus, it's still a world, it's not just godliness, but it doesn't see itself as a separate entity from God. Whereas Bria, it already sees itself as a separate entity from God that's totally connected to God. And this shows on creation that there's a creation which is outside of godliness. Of course, it's not really outside, but nothing outside. But this is how it sees. Like I said, like the Rambam says, in his Pirush on the Torah, in the pasuk of Bereshis, that's what he says. That it's this level of creation. Malach and Atzilus moved on Bria Atzilus, and that's why Atzilus is so separate, because Atzilus is so distant from that reality. There's something other than God. How can that be? The Kol Sheked, and even more so, Hagashi Mamish. So how much more so from our physical world? How separate Atzilus is from us? Because we're the exact opposite of Atzilus. Atzilus feels only godliness, and we feel only our existence. And this is, if you think about it for a second, this is how your life is. Godliness is foreign, and my life, my physicality is natural. In Atzilus, physicality is foreign, and godliness is natural. And for this, and therefore, now that we understand this, trying to get from Atzilus all the chesed that Hashem is giving to us on the Shes Mitzvah, and with the Hey Gevurah we talked about on Yom Kippur, and by Ne'ilah, all that, to go from that in Atzilus to come to our physical world, Ein Sham Shum Tzir Adain, V'chinas Chesed Agashmi. In Atzilus, there's no physicality, so that Chesed is not coming into our world that we can actually see a result from it. To'elam Hazeh Rak Shenimshach Stam Hashpas Achesed L'chnes Yisrael, just a general hashpa, but it's not felt in this physical world. V'nechlak al yedei ha'ei gevuros l'chol echad ve'echad mi'atzmoi avla kolhu b'chinas chesed ruch nidayin, and it gets separated into those 4 and 5 gevuros, which means it's tailored for us, but it's still spiritually. It's all in terms of spirituality, and that's the issue. Aberdei sheyumshach achakach michesed ze chayus. Now, in order to get it from there, to bring it down all the way to the physicality, so we actually get it in our physical lives, having health, sustenance, parnasa, children, things like this. It comes from the key component, which is malchus. Malchus, like in our physical world, is like the feminine aspect, like the woman in Atzilus. I'm going to explain how does Malchus do it. Like he explains in the Geras HaKodesh. So if you like an Alter writes in his letter in Tanya, even on Yom Tov, Bechinas Chesed Atzilus, Mislabish Lagamre, Bechesed Debriya. Even the Chesed of Atzilus, which is sort of the highest level within Atzilus, it includes itself into the Chesed of Bria. And it gives life to this physical world. How? Al Yedei Ma'avar Chesed Yitzira V'Asiyah, through the Chesed from Atzilus to Chesed of Bria, Chesed of Yitzira, and Chesed of Asiyah. And that's how it's able to go down. That's like we talked about in the past about the electricity from the power plants all the way. It goes through a lot of tzimtzumim until it comes to our plug that we can just plug it in and it works, not too much. And so that's happening. The godliness, the pure godliness that's in Atzilus has to be mitzamtzum, has to be condensed, concealed, like wearing sunglasses, so you can actually receive it. And this is talking about, and remember, we're talking about in Yom Tov. ועשייה הניקה גם כן הסלבשוס, שאם לא יכן, לא היה פועל בגש של מה זה עד כאן דיבור. And that's what he says over there in Alter Rebbe, that without this, including all these lower worlds, we wouldn't be able to receive it. Meaning we can't get from Atzilus direct. We have to have one because it's too much. That's all on Yom Tov. And during the week, it's through a complete enclosement in these worlds, meaning it gets more contracted. But it's also through the connection of the six emotive attributes with Malchus. The Yitzira, they must be b'chinas islavshus b'chesed the Yitzira bilvad, ki za the Yitzira gam kein adayin eina b'geder sh'tiyah mizeh yishparas chesed asiyah. And even it's not enough that it goes into the emotive attributes of Yitzira, which is the one just before our physical world. So even though it's the chesed of Atzilus is coming down all the way into Yitzira, and it's getting included into the six emotions of Yitzira, nevertheless, it still needs to go into the Malchus. Because if it doesn't go into that Malchus, then it doesn't come into our physical world. And it couldn't give life for Asiyah. But it's all has to come about through the Malchus. And through the Malchus of, in this case, of Yitzira, it makes it possible that even our physical we can receive from this. And even in Asiyah, you have to have this six emotive attributes, which is Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. Yeah, that's six with Malchus. So all those have to also connect to Malchus. Because Malchus is the thing that makes it separate. Now, on one hand, you're going to say, so that Malchus seemingly is a bad thing. It makes the feeling of separateness. But that's the whole purpose. The whole purpose of us to be in this world as separate beings and connect to Hashem. He needs, and he's going to explain that now. But that's what we're saying here. We're saying Malchus is what gives the ability, and so too, in simple physical terms, we have like a baby. Baby, something separate from the parents. It's connected to the parents, but it's something separate, and that's what a woman's able to do, able to give birth to a separate entity. Because there's no king without a people. In order for there to be a king, it needs to have people. Now, of course, those people can't be the king. Then it's not a king. A king is not a king over himself. A king needs other people that want to connect him. And this is what Malchus is doing. Malchus is giving us and is making us the ability to be separate from Hashem and choose Hashem. And this is Malchus doing it in all the levels. Malchus is taking Atzilus, which is total godliness, and to making a world of Bria, which is a feeling of not total godliness, feeling of an existence other than Hashem, that's totally connected to Hashem. And then it goes to all the Tzimtzumim, it goes down to all the levels till it gets to Malchus, and Malchus makes it go from the level of Bria to Yitzira, which is a feeling of more separateness from Hashem. But ultimately, all this separateness is not, so we should separate ourselves from Hashem, but it's through the separation to connect. This is the beauty, sort of tapestry of life, that when you distance yourself from someone, or the fact that you are separate from someone and you connect is much greater than connecting to someone that's exactly like you, or like to yourself. You know yourself to a certain extent better than most people. I say to a certain extent because it's complicated, but you don't 100% know yourself. But in general terms, we know ourselves. So we can take care of ourselves to give ourselves the most enjoyment and most fun and most things. But the truth of the matter is the most enjoyment that we get is with someone else. That's like why it's so special getting married. Someone else to share your life with and to connect with their differences and your differences coming together. That's what makes it special. And this is what the whole point is, that through the Malchus, it's separating ourselves from Hashem to make us, therefore, be able to, when we do connect to Hashem, that makes it very special. And from here causes the hashpa, all the flow of all the godliness that's wanting to come into our physical world, so we can actually have a better what we need to be able to serve Hashem properly with Banei Chayim Mezene, health, children, and sustenance. Daily, according to what that day needs, from the 6 directions, the Bria Yitzir Asiyah, meaning from the 6 emotive attributes of Bria Yitzir Asiyah, through that whole, so being able to get that godliness that we want to affect us all the way through the whole process of this symptom, this ishtalshlus. Which all starts from these 5 severities of Atik that's doing it, but ultimately, like we explained now, it's through that process that which with the help of Malchus. And do the kitzur. The sealing of Ne'ilah is all about that it should come, all the chesed that we worked on, that we set ourselves up to receive, we're sealing it, that it should come to the right places. And every single person specifically to what they need, to their exactly what works for them. Hashefa haklali miskabel b'malchus da'atzilus, and the general shefa, the general flow of godliness that's going to ultimately want to come down to our physical world starts and goes. It's received through malchus of atzilus and malchus b'ne'ilah, which is still spiritual in atzilus, but because it came into malchus, atzilus moved over in Bria Yitzir, and atzilus is very separated from the lower 3 worlds. Ke'esh, like a fire, which is so separate from all the other elements of wind, earth, and water, which they can connect together. Rak b'ishtalshlus, the Bria Yitzir Asiyah, but only through the ishtalshlus, through the chain-like descent, through the descent, through those worlds that they condense the light, the godliness, so we're able to actually receive it. It causes through these 5 gevuros, it causes that there is some type of relationship that it can ultimately come down into this physical that we can get it, but through that whole process that we talked about. I guess the lesson we can learn from this is how much it takes to get all the good and how many roadblocks that could be on the way. So we should be very appreciative of what we have, and we should appreciate that, and we should continue working hard to get everything we need to get for our daily needs. Have a great day.